Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another themed vlog. I don't know how long this vlog is going to be, whether it's a week or a month, because the books that I have are chunky and they are dark academia, which do tend to take me longer, but is a genre that I really enjoy. Now, dark academia has definitely become more prevalent over the last few years. I mean, there's a lot of booktubers who really enjoy the dark academia gothic aesthetic, which definitely adds, I think, to the interest of it. But there is something about books set in academia, set at university, that I just absolutely adore. I am such an academic at heart, and it devastates me every day that I'm not currently studying for a PhD. I know it's a really hard thing to do, and therefore it breeds elitism and competition and stuff like that, and I find it fascinating to read in fiction. So I have 3 books that I am definitely going to be reading for this vlog, and maybe a 4th if I get these 3 done quick enough. The first one I'm going to be reading is Tea Apollo Blue. This is the book that I have picked as my choice for the giveaway in Gothtober. It is set in 1994 Cambridge, and basically a young Don, or younger Don, certainly not as old as the others, says something really inappropriate about a modern art piece that has been brought to the college and basically gets fired. Has a breakdown, kind of goes through a emotional crisis, existential crisis, and also falls into a gay relationship. And I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying the writing of this. The main character isn't a nice person, but there is definitely something empathetic about him that I'm really enjoying. And I just think it's a really interesting dark academia because there is still elitism, etc., but it doesn't have necessarily the violence yet. I don't know if it will guarantee it for this, that I have read in other dark academia novels. I'm enjoying it. It's quite an easy read as dark academias go. Like, it's not that densely written, which I enjoy, and I'm just enjoying the whole vibe of this. The whole aesthetic of it is lovely. The book itself is beautiful. I've shown you 100 times the beautiful naked hardback and the inside pages. Like, it's just amazing, and I'm really enjoying it. I'll be really surprised if it doesn't get 5 stars. So that is the first one on my list. The second one I will be doing exclusively as an audiobook. I have no intention of buying this book, even though a very nice 30th edition has just been released. It's really insane to me that this book and something else, Anna Dracula, both came out the year I was born. Interesting. Anyway, it's The Secret History, which is one of the original dark academia novels. If ever you look up a dark academia list, this one is one of the first mentioned. The reason I have been avoiding it so long, considering dark academia is one of my favourite genres, is because I have been told that it is incredibly anti-Semitic, racist, and elitist to the point of not just there for the narrative, but because the author clearly has these views. That's not something I want to endorse, which is why I've not bought it. It's why it's not on Waypoint Books, whereas the other 2 are. It is something where, for my own self-interest, I'm just gonna do it as an audiobook, and that way if I end up DNFing it because it's not my thing, that's absolutely fine. I haven't lost any money, I haven't spent any money, so I'm just doing it as an audiobook. I don't want to pay for it if I can help it, but I'm interested to see, because I read The Brave New World, which I also didn't really enjoy, but it was really interesting to me to see just how many tropes from that original novel then became standard tropes in the genre that it helped create, so dystopias, etc. That was really interesting to me. I didn't enjoy it, but it was academic, it was educational, I found it really informative, and I enjoy learning. So I'm kind of going into The Secret History with those same things, understanding how problematic it is, but with this understanding that it has inspired other books that have come out later that are written by BIPOC authors, that are written with inclusivity, but originated from this concept, I guess. And then the last one is the one that I think is going to take me the longest, because I'm doing it as a buddy read. So I will be doing Babel. Now, I bought myself, I got the Illumicrate copy, and then I bought myself the standard hardback because I really want to annotate this book. And there was absolutely no way on God's green earth I was touching a hair on this book's head. So I bought myself the standard copy so that I can annotate this one. If it gets lower than 3 stars, which I highly doubt, I will just keep this one for my annotations as opposed to my Illumicrate copy, which I will end up selling. If it gets 4 or higher, I will keep both. It's kind of how I'm viewing this. I'm not usually one for buying multiples of books if I can help it, but sometimes books call to my soul and I have to buy multiple copies. Like I said, there was no way I was annotating the other one. So I'm going to be reading this with Celine, Lizzie and Kelly. Celine is actually hosting a buddy read of this for her Book Wanderers book club, but we kind of will discuss that we wanted to read this during Gothtober anyway, because it is going to be such a prolific dark academia. Like, everyone was scrambling for a copy. Waterstones really struggled to get them in. I mean, I struggled to get them in just because Waterstones had bought so many but then weren't actually able to ship them out to people. I then struggled to get my hands on copies, which is just insane to me. People that have ordered them from me have they're in the post, they're out. So I'm really excited to get to this. I've heard it's really, really good if you like the academia side of dark academia, which I absolutely do. But yeah, so I'll be annotating this one as I go. So those are the 3 books. Like I said, I am not sure how long this vlog will take me, and I'm not too worried if it does run over a week or so. I've actually already started another vlog, but I just haven't read any of those books because I want to be reading these ones alongside them, because then I have paperbacks that I'm actually reading as well as audiobooks and hardbacks, etc. Plus, you know me, I don't like reading one book at a time, which is why I'm really nervous about November. I'm really, really nervous about November, but I'm very, very excited to get to these. I have a meeting in about half an hour, so I'm going to go and skedaddle and get sorted for that. And when I have something to update you about these books, I will. Okay, so I'm 100 pages from the end of Tea Apollo Blue, and I thought I would just give you a wrap up of sorts again so that I don't spoil the ending, because I have a habit of doing that. Tea Apollo Blue, if you didn't know, essentially is about a Don, or a man called Don, who is a professor who works at Cambridge College as an art professor. However, when he makes a big faux pas and says something very rude about a new art piece that has come to Cambridge, he is basically removed from the college under a cloud. He is then brought on to manage a museum, and people are not particularly welcoming to him. He is not really receptive to them. He falls into a relationship that's not really a relationship either. And I filmed my wrap up for Pizza Girl today, and it brought back these thoughts that I have around novels that look at the psychosis of forcing your love upon someone else when you are infatuated with them, but the feeling is not mutual. There is a lot of that going on in this, mixed with a lot of work politics. He is kind of up against this up and coming, 10 years younger than him, art theorist or professor or whatever, that's not as qualified as he is, but is a lot more popular, is a lot more charismatic, is kind of already starting to usurp him in his new job. And in the meantime, he is kind of fascinated and infatuated with this young man. And having never had a full relationship before, he doesn't really know how to do that. And there's a lot of internalized homophobia there, because whilst he appreciates things that are beautiful, there is a part of him that doesn't want to express those things because it has been forced upon him not to. And there is a really interesting scene where he reflects on things that his mum said to him along the lines of, like, don't tell me you're gay, I don't want to know that you're gay, like, don't ruin this for me, kind of thing. And he obviously did not have a particularly good childhood. He was very excited to leave for university and then never really left. And as he's going through the motions and kind of slipping further and further into a alcohol-fueled breakdown, he's starting to remember things that happened to him with his professor, who has been kind of puppeteering the whole thing. So it's a really interesting thing because you see it all from his perspective. You don't learn everything as it's happening. You see it as he's learning about it, and you very much see how he views something. But there is always this this slight like misunderstanding. Like there's always this kind of like misinterpretation, I guess, where you can understand why he's made those mistakes, you can understand why he would believe those things, but that's not what's happening. And I find that really, really interesting. But like I said before, it's a really interesting dark academia because it's not necessarily focused on like murder and brutality like a lot are. This is very much an introspective, slow burn mental breakdown. But I'm still really enjoying it, and I'm still glad that I picked it for Gothtober's giveaway because it's so different from the other 2 books. Very cerebral, very psychological, and very literary, added to the dark academia vibe, which on their own aren't necessarily my thing. I don't know who I would recommend this to, because unless you are really into dark academia, unless you're very much into that kind of like cerebral literary writing, which not a lot of my audience is. Like a lot of people that comment on my videos tend to be people who enjoy horror, gothic, like traditional gothic, YA, fast-paced, like brutality. This is not that. This is kind of the opposite of all of that. It's very, very similar to Catherine House, which again looks at like the psychosis of feeling stuck, feeling emotionally drained, but having nowhere to physically go. I'm going to finish the 100 pages of this, and then I'm probably going to do... I was going to do my chapters for Babel, because I need to do that at some point, but my mum has decided she wants to hang out with me tomorrow. She's coming to Banbury. She's going to hang out with me, which was not part of my plan. I had work to do, but the work will have to wait. My mother is coming. The Queen is coming, as it were. So instead, I am probably going to watch Critical Role and tidy my flat so that my mum doesn't think that I'm living like a student, which is a comment that my dad made. I didn't appreciate it, but I can see what he's saying. 2 boxes of books that I'm unhauling, which is good, and I've swept everything, so everything looks nice and clean. I just need to do the kitchen now. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to go do that. I'm probably going to finish this one, and I'll let you know at the end what rating I gave it. Like I said, I would be surprised if it's not a 5 stars, but it hasn't made me cry yet. And usually that's like a gut reaction. I know it's going to get 5 stars as it makes me cry. It hasn't done that. I haven't cried yet, but there's 100 pages to go, so who knows? It will depend on how the book is wrapped up, how those threads are kind of pulled together, and who wins. Because like there's this real kind of academic elitism, which is obviously what makes it a dark academia in the first place, and it's very wine-fueled and political, and yeah, there's something going on. There is something going on with some of the behind-the-scenes characters, and I don't know what it is yet, because the main character doesn't know what it is yet, and that's really intriguing. But depending on how that pans out will probably determine what rating I give it. But it won't be lower than 4 stars. Easily it won't be lower than 4 stars. I've really enjoyed this. So yeah, I'm going to go do that. And then when I've read something else, I'll let you know. So it's Friday morning and I've not actually read anything since I finished Tea Apollo Blue the other day, which I did give 4 stars, and the ending was wild, but I'm not going to spoil it here. I just thought I would let you know. My mum came to stay. My dad had to go on like a trip and she didn't want to be in the house by herself, so she came to stay with me for the night, and it was fine. Like, hanging out with my mum, I enjoy hanging out with my mum, so it just meant that I didn't get any reading done, because when I wasn't hanging out with her, I was catching up on work that I missed from hanging out with her. But I was able to show her around Banbury and show her where I live and all this sort of stuff. It was just really nice. But one of the things I got to do when she was here was go to Waterstones and pick up the books that have been sat there waiting for me, because if you've ordered anything from Waterstones, you will know that trying to get your hands on those things has not been the easiest thing in the world. And I was getting emails to say that things had been dispatched to my local store, and that I would get an email at some point to say that it was ready to be collected, and then I never did. So after like a couple of weeks of having like 2 or 3 different things come through, I was like, I need to go and check. So I did. And I had 3 books waiting for me, and I'm so excited, because where I get most of my books through my own company, I only go to Waterstones for their Waterstones editions, and they're so goddamn pretty. They're so pretty. So the first thing to arrive was my Waterstones exclusive Golden Enclave, which has the really pretty eye on the side, and I'm really excited because I recently bought off of someone from Becca's Patreon the Illumicrate or Fairy Loot edition of this, which is like the first one, which is also gold. So now I have gold in those editions, and I'm just so pleased with it. I'm so pleased with it. And like, whilst there's nothing necessarily on the hardback, I just think that is going to look so cool next to the other 2. So I was really excited to get my hands on that one. Then I also picked up my Richard Osman The Bullet That Missed, which is the 3rd one in the Thursday Murder Club series, which also has foxes down the front, like down the side, the sprayed edge, and also has a green fox on the front. Again, absolutely adored the first one. I have the second one on my TBR, so I should get to that one soon, and then I won't feel quite so guilty about buying this one. And then the 3rd one was my copy of Stoneblind. Now, I had a copy that I bought for myself when Waterstones was being really difficult about getting stuff in, because I was like, I would quite like to get started with it when it first came out. I didn't get to it in time. I ran out of time, so I'm not too mad, but I just adore this. And it means that the other one, because it's still brand new, it's just going to go back on Waypoint shelves. 3 completely different books, but they look sick together. Like, there's just something about that is a whole vibe, and I absolutely adore them. And then after my mum left, I had post, and Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe has sent me the proof of Idol Burning, which is about a K-pop star, or someone who is a fan of a K-pop star or a K-pop idol, who does something and basically like he punches a fan, and like there's a massive like uproar about it. But it's a really short little book, and I'm really intrigued by it because I'm not really interested in K-pop, and I'm sorry if that immediately destroys any credibility I have on the internet. There are certain songs that I like, there are certain bands that I like, but there's no like one genre that I'm obsessed with, and K-pop certainly isn't even in the top 10. But I find I find there's something really interesting about this. Like, the setup of this sounds really intriguing, and I'm excited to add it to my proof like copy list, because I don't have a particularly big stack, but a lot of the proofs that I do have come from Olivia, who's either been sent them by publishers and doesn't want to read them anymore, or has read them, or has another copy, or whatever. So we're adding it to the list. So it was a really nice, very, very eclectic little book stack that I got over the last couple of days. Need to get some stuff done today. Even though it's Friday and I don't work Sundays, I do need to get some stuff done today, but I'm not going to punish myself if I don't get it done. I will probably spend most of this afternoon annotating Babel, because I will have time this afternoon where I have not had time for the last week. I am putting off the secret history, and it's like, I really shouldn't. I really should just like dive straight in, but I really don't want to. Like, I'm so intimidated by this book. I know it's going to be problematic, but I also understand that it is a big part of the genre of dark academia as a whole, so I know I need to get to it. I just don't want to. So those are the 2 things that I need to get done. And then I have chosen for my reading sprints on Sunday, I'm going to be reading Anatomy, which is also technically dark academia, because it is a gothic novel about a young girl learning medicine, except she's not allowed to study medicine in college because she's a girl. So what she studies instead is with dug up corpses, stuff like that. So I'm imagining it's going to get real dark real quick, and I'm very excited about that, and I definitely think that would count in that genre, so therefore can add to this vlog. Maybe then I'll actually have something to talk to you about. In the meantime, I am going to go eat some lunch, do the work, get Babel started. At the very least, I need to get like the first 100 pages in so I can talk to you about it, because all of the people that I'm buddy reading it with are fully like a third of the way through now and really enjoying it, and I need to catch up. So that's my plan, and I'll catch up with you again in a bit.
Okay, so it has been 2 weeks since I last updated this vlog specifically, and that is because I have just not found any time to do the reading that I want to do. However, I have read 2 more dark academia books, which I could happily talk about in this vlog, so that's what I'm going to do. I read both of these for my start to finish sprints, and honestly, that's the only reading I've done. Anything else has been like audiobooks and stuff, and like picking up like short reads here and there that have got nothing to do with my TBR, and not actually finishing any of them or doing anything like that. But it's been a really weird couple of weeks, and I always find that in the middle of Gothtober I come in with all these great plans and then they don't happen because life happens instead. For the first start to finish reading sprints, I read Beyond the Black Door, which is not dark academia. For the second, I read Anatomy, and for the third, I read Divines. And both of these are dark academia, but they are dark academia in a very, very different way, and I will explain how and why. So Anatomy is about a young girl who is in kind of a Victorian or Georgian place in Scotland. Edinburgh, I think, is generally where it's set. Yeah, Edinburgh. She is kind of in Georgian Victorian Edinburgh, and at this time there was a lot of grave robbing because doctors and scientists were learning about anatomy, studying anatomy, and it was very much a nouveau thing for people to be studying. But there weren't enough bodies for people to actually do the science on, so people were selling bodies and digging up graves and things like that. And there were loads of people hanged for doing such thing, which were then donated to science, and it was a whole thing. Anyway, she's not allowed to study medicine because she's not allowed to study medicine. What you doing, bud? She's not allowed to study medicine because she's a woman, so she has to source her bodies herself. And then it becomes a bit of a romance between her and the guy that is procuring these bodies for her. It's very, very gentle. It's very, very entry level gothic. And the dark academia kind of comes in with the fact that she's like studying, there is elitism, a disparity between the genders, etc. I gave it 3.5 stars. Like I said, it's a very gentle read. I am not a massive fan of Victorian Gothic, which was not something I realised when I bought this, because I've bought a couple of Victorian Gothics recently and just not enjoyed them. And I'm adding this one to the list. Like, it was fine, like there's nothing wrong with it. And it is one of those books where I feel like if someone's like, I want to try Gothic, but I don't know where to start, this is a good place to start, because it reads like any kind of romance, but has those tropes in it, and it's a very YA gentle paced novel as well. So absolutely would recommend that one if it's like an entry level thing that you need. If, however, you are a hardcore dark academia girly, I would recommend The Divines. Now, The Divines is very similar to The Furies in that there is a group of girls at this boarding school known as the Divine of St. John, and they are known as the Divines. They are all divine. Being divine is very complicated, it's very elitist, and basically we start this novel with Josephine, or Sophine as her husband calls her, or Jo as her friends call her, and that's important because there is a stark disparity between her old school friends and her husband, and like basically her old life and her new life. She goes to this boarding school, her mother went to this boarding school, her grandmother went to this boarding school, and these women learn to be a very particular kind of woman, and they are very, very elitist, and they don't get on with the townies, and she is kind of visiting on her honeymoon this place that she grew up after there was a horrible scandal, and the body drops on page 1, so you know something dramatic is going to happen. The rest of it is, again, very similar to Tea Apollo Blue, where it is a slow, tragic decline into madness. Not as fully into madness as Tea Apollo Blue, and this one has a very similar ending to The Other Black Girl, where it feels like it ends with more questions being asked, it was very jarring. But dark academia is jarring. It very much focuses on the disparity between the rich and the poor, and like the way the townies respond to them, and how the townies really resented the fact that this school of stuck-up brats, basically like these really nasty girls, were their sole income, and that there was nothing really they could do to remove them. And there is one girl in particular who is very much bullied and ousted by the main character's friends. And she kind of learns that as she grows, like as she gets older, people don't remember it the way she remembers it. She remembers it and is very traumatized by it, whereas others still glorify it and still think that it's a good time. Really, really interesting read, and I would also recommend this to people, even if you're not necessarily a fan of dark academia, but you are interested in unhinged women and kind of the slow decline. she has a family, she has this husband who's just adorable. He's just like the nicest guy, and there's loads of times where he just wants her to let go. Like, he's asked her about her family and her past and her school days, and he knows that it's toxic and he knows that she needs to let it go, so he stops asking, but she keeps bringing it up, and he just wants her to let it go, and it becomes this whole thing in their relationship. And he's just like the cutest. He's just the cutest. I don't know, I think there was a slight hint that he may have cheated on her at the end, but I think it's more a case of like she's cheating on him with these photos that she has from her school days. And I'm not going to spoil that bit, because there is a really prominent storyline related to sexual assault and grooming that also involves some pictures. So just as a content warning, bear that in mind. This is a very, very dark, insidious book. Where this book is a lot more gentle with you as a reader, this one is not. But they are both dark academia, but they are very, very different ends of the dark academia spectrum. One that I would recommend to everybody if they want to give it a go, and one where I'm like, okay, if you like the Furies, or if you like Tiapolo Blue, or if you like other things that are gonna, you know, mess with your head and make you confused and make you kind of hate everybody. Like, there are no likable characters in this except for Jürgen, which is her husband, and her kid is adorable. And I'm not even a kid person, but like, her kid's adorable. In this one, everyone is likable, everyone is empathetic, everyone is trying to do their best except for the main antagonists, which makes sense. So those are two very, very different dark academias that I've read over the last 2 weeks. Let me tell you about Babel. So when I started, I was like, okay, for the whole of October, I'm going to read Babel, I'm going to annotate Babel, it's going to be a whole experience, and I'm really excited to do that. I've done a chapter because I have just been so busy with work that when it comes to the evening, when I was going to do those chapters, I don't have the energy. I just don't have it in me to do that. I know that I would get more done if I got it done during the day, but I feel guilty if I put time towards annotating and reading and stuff that's not directly related to work, if I do it during work hours. So it's a very jarring thing. And if I was going to catch up at the weekend, I can't, because I've got Gothtober events, which are really fun, but tend to be kind of like a crammed together organisation style. It's just who I am. So I end up spending more time at my weekends doing that than reading and annotating. So it's been complicated. I really, really hope that I have something to say to you about Babel as a story soon. But yeah, I'm really struggling to find the time that I want to dedicate to it, because I was like, I could just finish the audiobook. And not bother annotating it and just read it as standard, and then kind of wrap it up for you guys, which would bring this vlog to an end. Or what I could do is stick to what I'm doing and then just post this vlog when it's ready. And I know one would be easier than the other, but one will feel finished in a way that the other doesn't. So I haven't decided. At this point of recording, I haven't decided. I don't know. What I do know is I have work to do. We have the guy coming to sort out our log burner, because our log burner needs cleaning, which is great because our house is fucking cold. So I need that sorted. And I think I'm just going to take a slow day of doing work today and just kind of chill out and get stuff done. So I'm going to go do that, and I will catch up with you when I've read something else, hopefully dark academia based.
So in a devastating, except I'm not actually that devastated, turn of events, Scribd has removed the secret history. I don't know why. It's really dumb and really annoying. It's been on there for ages, and just when I wanted to start reading it, I couldn't. But I have started Babel, I have started tabbing. Now I thought I would just quickly run through. I've currently used 3 colours, not that you can really tell, but there is a very, very dark grey, a light grey and a pink that I have used. And basically dark grey is any kind of imperialism. It's one of the key themes of this. So anytime there's kind of an appropriation of culture or kind of forcing an Englishism into people that are not English, which comes up a lot as well. I've kind of tabbed and I'm making annotations for that. The lighter grey is anything related to the magic system. So in chapter 1, we're already introduced to these silver bars that can kind of channel magic in some way, but we don't know what they do yet because our main character is starting off as a boy, but obviously he's going to grow up through the narrative, which is interesting. And then pink is anything to do with linguistics, so I imagine there's going to be quite a few pink ones to come. Like I said, I've only done chapter 1 so far, but I made a start and I just thought I would give you like my initial impression is that I really like the writing style of this. It's a lot more gentle than the Poppy War was, just in like the way it's written, not the content, but I am really enjoying it. I can see why people really like it. I'm kind of waiting for the lecture lecture-y type vibe, which a lot of people didn't like, but I'm looking for dark academia that actually feels like academia. That is absolutely the vibe I'm going for. I was going to film, this is like look one of like a dark academia lookbook. Because I have a lot of clothes that have a dark ac aesthetic or a part-time dark academia aesthetic. What I mean is I wear a lot of black. I wear a lot of colour too, but I wear a lot of black. I just filmed like a tiny little clip, and there is no good way of getting everything in without me feeling a way about everything. So just know that this was look one of what was going to be about 10 different things, and I've already lost the motivation for it. Obviously, in my video about fat phobia and body positivity, I came hard on it's okay to be fat, etc. It is, but that is not to say that every person doesn't feel certain things about their body at certain times, and I just thought I would share with you an honest moment of upon reflection, I'm not confident enough yet to do that, which is a shame because I've got some great clothes, but I'm just not confident enough to do it here yet. So that's fine, we'll work on it. It's a work in progress, as is my tabbing. Look at that segue. Anyway, I am going to go, I need to film some videos for the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to go and do that. And obviously, because it wouldn't be a Hannah O'Donnell vlog without something meant, I've got work to do. I've got work to do too, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back to you in a bit, but I just thought I would let you know that I've done this.
Okay, Gothtober is officially over, and now so is this vlog. I did not finish Babel, I never picked up The Secret History, and I'm done for Dark Academia for a while now. There were a couple of books that I did consider picking up, but it's not happening. I can only read one book at a time, and Dark Academia is just taking too much brain power from me, so I'm putting those books down. I will come back to them very soon. Are there any other like subgenres of Gothic that you would like to see a vlog for? Let me know in the comments down below. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave either one of the little clock emojis or an urn maybe, something related to Dark Academia in the comments. Make sure to check out Waypoint because buying a book and treating yourself supports me and my content, and most importantly, have a nice day.